All right, here we go. Hello, BFOD squad. Welcome back to Barrelful of Daryl, Season 2, Episode 21. Time flies. As you know, or may not know, this is where I discuss music, movies, sprinkle in some mirth, as well as some other funky ass shit. Couple of reminders for you. I created a booklet titled Tales from Scratch Ankle, which introduces the sponsors from there. And I think you should grab a copy. It's at payhip.com, and my store name is Daryl's Barrel. All one word. I also have some merch for you. I also set up a shop at tpublic.com. And there you will find the BFOD logo. You can add it to a t-shirt, you can add it to socks, you can add it to a mug. I don't think you can add it to underwear, but who knows. And I also have some other delectable designs to delight you. Alliteration, I love it. So there is a link in the episode to both PayHip for the booklet and TeePublic for art, t-shirts and shit. Okay, enough of that. Mystery music lyric. Oh, if you want it, here it is. Come and get it. Season 1, Episode 40, I discussed Badfinger and their first hit song, Come and Get It, which was written by Paul McCartney and given to them after they signed on with Apple Records. Yeah. Mystery movie quote. I'll have what she's having. Okay, we'll talk about that next week. Music. Johnny Horton. 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 Now, if you know this guy and his music, we can certainly be best friends. Now, let me give you a little bit of backstory on how I know this guy. So, my father, may he rest in peace, he was a big fan of Johnny Horton. Therefore, so was I. And my dad, he had this big console stereo. Pretty common back in the 50s and 60s to have this console stereo. It was all wood, beautiful. And the lid would open up, and inside on the right-hand side would be a turntable, and on the left-hand side would be a storage space for albums. And if you swing the doors open, you'll find the speakers. Yeah, very cool. So I used to put an album on, swing the speakers open, and lay on the floor between the speakers and listen to this music. Johnny Horton, as well as several other artists, but Johnny Horton seemed to be the go-to for my dad. I wish I still had that classic vintage stereo. And all my life, I have had a copy of Johnny Horton's Greatest Hits album in one form or another. I shit you not. So who is Johnny Horton? Good question. I'm glad you asked. Johnny was born in Los Angeles, California in 1925, and he grew up in Texas. His family traveled back and forth from Texas to California, working as sharecroppers. Now, his genres were country, honky-tonk, and rockabilly. Now, in 1948, he traveled to Alaska to look for gold, and there he started writing songs. After returning to Texas, he entered and won a talent contest, which encouraged him to move to California to pursue a music career. Now, in Pasadena, he had a half-hour radio show calling himself the Singing Fisherman. Yeah, he was a big-time fisherman. Well, he was signed on by 2 record labels, not at the same time, one after the other. And he had some minor hits. However, he also had a regular appearance on a show called Louisiana Hayride, which is a radio and later a TV show out of Shreveport, Louisiana. So he ended up moving there. By the way, Louisiana Hayride, that's where Elvis Presley also got his start. Yeah. So in the mid-1950s, he began releasing hit songs on Mercury record label and later signed on with Columbia Records. Yeah, that's pretty big. Now, he traveled to Nashville for his first recording session, and there he adopted a rockabilly style. And in 1956, he released the single Honky Tonk Man, which was a big hit for him. Now, 30 years later, 1986, Dwight Yoakam released a cover of Honky Tonk Man, which helped to launch his career. It was on his first album. And his music video was the first country video played on MTV. Yeah, it went big time. Huge hit for Dwight. Well, speaking of Dwight, he and Johnny Horton have similar singing style. They both use what's called an upward falsetto glissando, also known as country crack, also known as the hiccup effect, also known as a yodel. But basically, at the end of the lyric line, the singer's voice slides up into a higher note. A shout out to Kenzie for digging up this intel for me. By the way, if you ever start a podcast and you need a producer, you cannot have Kenzie. He's mine. So now Johnny is becoming famous, and his later hits include the song Battle of New Orleans and North to Alaska. Now the latter, North to Alaska, was the theme song for the 1960 movie of the same name, starring John Wayne. John Wayne, thank you. Now, sadly, Johnny's life was cut short in 1960. Yeah. He and his bandmates were driving late at night from Austin, Texas, back to Shreveport. And while crossing a bridge, a truck swerved into their lane and hit them head on. Johnny died on his way to the hospital, and his bandmates suffered serious injuries. One of them had a leg amputation. While the truck driver, basically, he got a broken ankle. Yeah, he was a drunk driver, so, no harm comes to drunk drivers. So Johnny died at the age of 35, and I mean, right at the start of what probably would have been stardom for him. Yeah, big loss. A little bit more about his songs. Now, many of them are patriotic and historical for the USA. Now, he's got love ballads. Yeah, they're great as well. But these patriotic and historical songs, probably his most popular stuff. One of them is called Battle of New Orleans. And the Battle of New Orleans was part of a campaign in 1814 when the British tried to take New Orleans and West Florida. Now, Johnny also had a hit song called Sink the Bismarck. And the Bismarck was a legendary World War II German battleship, the largest ever built by a European power. And it was sunk by the British warships in 1941. Just one more song I'll talk about, and it's titled Comanche. It tells the story of the horse Comanche, who survived the Battle of Little Bighorn, also known as Custer's Last Stand. We're talking late 1800s. Okay. Now, all of General George Armstrong Custer's men died in this battle. It was like 200 of his guys versus about 2,000 Native Americans. Okay. No chance in hell. But all of his men died along with some horses. Now, folklore says that Comanche was the only survivor, but there were several other horses that lived and were not wounded and were taken by the Native Americans. Yeah. To the victor go the spoils. Now, Comanche, he was badly wounded, but he survived and he lived to be 29 years old. His body has been preserved and restored, and it's on display in the National History Museum at the University of Kansas. A true national hero. In this song, Johnny's singing the lyrics, and the only rhythm, the only instrument is the sound of horse clops. It's very cool. So, amble on over to the playlist and enjoy some Johnny Horton. I'm sure you will. And now a word from our sponsor. I'll be right back. Well, hi everybody. This here's Ernest T. Bass again, coming to you from the Piggly Wiggly and Scratch Ankle, Alabama. You ain't gonna believe this, but that pretty little golf girl, she came back in the store yesterday for more groceries. And as she was checking out, I gathered the courage to speak to her. But she ended up being nice, and she explained that she's not a golf girl, but a goth girl. Well, I apologized and told her we don't really see that here in Scratch Ankle. Then I asked her if she would go dancing with me, and she asked what kind of dancing. And I told her square dancing because that's all we got here. And she said she would think about it. She gave me a smile and she left. And, my little heart is still trying to jump out of my chest. So, our specials this week are Uncle Ben's rice boxes at $2 a piece, Campbell's pork and beans at $1 a can, and as always, a bucket of chitlins for $5. Anywho, before I go, I want to tell you I seen the weirdest thing the other day, right out there on Main Street. It was an animal, and it looked like a squirrel, but it had rabbit ears, a rabbit tail, and rabbit feet. Now I had to rub my eyes, and when I looked back, it was gone. And I told my manager, Johnny Ray, about it, and he told me to quit drinking on the job. Anywho, when you're here in Scratch Ankle, you stop by Piggly Wiggly and grab yourself some good victuals. Bye for now. And we're back. Movie. Yes, man. The movie. That's the name of the movie. Yes, man. So, all the way back to season 1, episode 1, long time ago, I talked about the band Eels and the frontman Mark Oliver Everett, also known as E. Now, I mentioned that he created the musical score for this movie, Yes Man. So the other day I was scrolling through my movie library and I came upon Yes Man. So I said, what the hell? And I watched it again. Now, it's based on a book of the same name written by a Scotsman, Danny Wallace, and it's based on some of his real life events. Now, this guy, he's also written a book titled Danny Wallace and the Center of the Universe. Now, let me tell you, there's a small town in Idaho called Wallace, and it's got a manhole cover. and they claim it to be the center of the universe. Yeah, I swear. Well, he visited there and he wrote a book about it. I downloaded it, but I haven't read it yet. Now, just last year, my wife and I and Logan, we took a road trip to Washington State. And on the return visit, we spent a night in Wallace, Idaho, unaware of it being the center of the universe. But we did, in fact, see the manhole cover, and we went, Now, this Wallace, it is a beautiful small town, snuggled in the Rocky Mountains with gorgeous scenery. And if you're in that area or going through that area, I recommend you stop over. And if you ever do go there, stay at the Brooks Hotel. You get a free, freshly cooked breakfast that you can barely eat all of. All of it. Delicious. Okay, so Yes Man. This movie was released in 2008, and it's a romantic comedy starring Jim Carrey, Zoe Deschanel, I think that's how you say her name, Deschanel, and Bradley Cooper. And it received mixed reviews because of the similarity to the previous movie he released, Liar Liar. But it was a box office smash. Well, not a smash, but it was a success at the box office, raking in $223 million. Now, it's not on my top 25, but it's probably number 26. And yes, there are some scenes with Jim Carrey's shtick, but overall, I find it to be a very fucking funny film. More alliteration for you. In fact, I actually laughed out loud during numerous scenes. Anywho, Jim Carrey plays a junior bank officer named Carl Allen. And since his divorce, he is depressed and withdrawn with a very negative outlook. He ignores his friends, Peter and Rooney, played by Bradley Cooper and Danny Masterson. And he basically says no to anything that anybody asks him. Like a night out with his friends. He'll say no. Loan applications always declined, etc. So one day he's sitting outside the bank having lunch, and an old colleague, Nick, suggests that he attend a motivational seminar that encourages people to say yes to everything. He reluctantly goes, and he is swayed by the inspirational guru, Terrence. And he enters a covenant with the universe to say yes to everything that's asked of him. So leaving the seminar, a homeless man comes up to his car and asks for a ride to Elysian Park. Carl reluctantly says yes. And on the way there, the guy says, "Can I use your phone?" And Carl, again, he reluctantly hands him his phone. And so the guy, he's talking on the phone the whole time they're going there. Kills the phone's battery. And when he gets out of the car, he says, Can I get a few dollars off of you?" And Carl reaches into his pocket and pulls out some dollars. And the guy says, "Wait a minute, you got a lot of money there. Can I have it all?" And Carl says yes. So he drops the guy off and he gets stranded. He's out of gas and he has a dead cell phone. So he starts walking miles down the road to a gas station. And here he meets Allison, played by Zoe Deschanel. And she's riding a motor scooter. Now she gives him a ride back to his car, and he's putting the gas in it. And he asked her to make out with him. And she walks up to him, she gives him a kiss, and then she gets on her scooter and leaves. Now, the next day, he's leaving his apartment, and his elderly neighbor, Tilly, old lady, asks him to help her put up shelves. And in return, she offers him money. She opens her purse. Her purse is empty. She said, "Oh boy, I haven't gone to the bank." So she offers him oral sex, but he declines. But upon leaving her apartment, he trips down the stairs. He rolls all the way down the stairs, and he lands at the bottom of the stairs, where there's a big dog on a chain who comes running at him, comes inches away from his face, and is barking like mad. Yeah. So he takes this as an omen from the universe, and he goes back to Tilly's apartment, and he gets blown. This is a funny scene too. As she's moving down the bed, they show a glass of water on the nightstand, and then a set of dentures drop into it. Yeah. So he's now convinced that he must say yes to everything, or the universe will make him suffer. So he reunites with his friends, and he develops friendly relationship with his nerdy boss Norman, who he used to despise. Now he also says yes to assist Peter's fiancée with her bridal shower. He learns to speak Korean, he learns to play the guitar, and he learns to fly a plane. He's saying yes to everything. He also approves every loan that crosses his desk. Anybody coming in for a $500 loan or whatever, approved, approved, approved. Now, he also accepts a band flyer that gets handed to him outside of a coffee shop, which forever he had said no to. This time the guy asks him, and he takes the band flyer. And he goes to see this band. And it is a quirky band named Munchausen by Proxy. And it turns out that Allison is the lead singer. And she sings odd songs that she has written. Now he is charmed by her spirit, and they begin dating. Now he gets a promotion at work for all the microloans that he approved, bringing in a lot of money to the company. He makes it to the top level, corporate. So, learning to play the guitar, he learns the song Jumper by Third Eye Blind. And in one of the scenes, there's this guy on a ledge who is threatening to jump off of it. So there's a crowd down there, and Carl's in the crowd, and somebody says, somebody's got to do something. So he goes up to the guy's apartment, and he finds a guitar there. And he goes to the window, he's on the edge of the ledge, and he starts playing the song Jumper. And pretty soon the guy on the ledge starts singing it with him, and pretty soon the whole crowd below starts singing it as well. And the guy slowly moves back toward the window, and Carl pulls him back in safely. Yeah, he got some news about that. His friends were blown away. So he and Allison, they decide to be spontaneous, and they go to the airport to get on board the next plane that is leaving, regardless of the destination. And they end up in Lincoln, Nebraska, where they bond more, and they both confess their love. And she asks him to move in with her, and he pauses before saying yes. So she's alarmed by this, but he talks her through it and tells her he really means to say yes. Now, at the airport for their return trip, Carl gets arrested by FBI, who suspect him of being a terrorist, taking flying lessons, microloans for fertilizer for one guy, spontaneous trips, especially to Nebraska, learning Korean, having a short marriage. So they bring all this up, and Carl asks for his lawyer, and his friend Peter, who is a lawyer, flies in and explains to the feds about Carl's covenant with the universe, that he has to say yes to everything. Now, this is the first time Allison is hearing all this, especially the previous marriage, which was only 6 months long. She gets furious and she leaves him. So the feds release Carl, and he and Peter fly home. He keeps calling Allison constantly, but she's ghosting him. So Carl is desperate, and he decides that he needs to end the covenant. So he goes to the convention center and hides in the back seat of the guru, Terrence, back seat of his convertible. Terrence is leaving the parking lot, and Carl pops up from the back seat and starts yelling about, "I want to break the covenant." And Terrence is not paying attention, goes out on the road, and they get T-boned by a truck. And they both end up in the hospital. And they're in adjoining rooms, but actually it's one big room with a curtain between them. And Carl's complaining that he needs to break the covenant. He says, this covenant, it's full of shit. And he's telling his friend Peter about this. And Terrence slides the curtain back and he says, "You're right. It is full of shit." But it was a starting point for Carl to open his mind to other possibilities. He tells Carl that he can still say no and to let conscience be his guide. So Carl's relieved, and he ends up tracking down Allison at one of her jobs. This job is actually, she takes people jogging through the woods with cameras so they can shoot scenery. So you'll basically get blurry photographs. But he finds her there, and he chases her down. And they reconcile. Roll credits. And I didn't give you any spoiler alerts. I think the plot's not that mysterious, really. Not many twists. Now, if you need a good laugh, this movie will scratch that itch. Unfortunately, it's not streaming for free, so it's going to be a gas station hot dog and a Budweiser kind of thing. Now, before I leave this, let me say a little bit more about the band Eels, since it's been about 70 episodes when I discussed them. Now, watching Yes Man with the musical score brought me back around to listening to the great albums that the Eels put out. And my son and Jake, we lived on this music for years, downloading every album he put out. I highly recommend that you give them a listen. And to help you out with that, I'm going to add some of their songs to the playlist. Okay, that's it for the movie. Word of the week. Word of the week is YAR. YAR. Kind of like yard without the D, yarn without the N, YARF without the F. So it's a nautical term, meaning a boat or ship that is quick, agile, and easy to handle. Now, in South Asia, yar means a friend or loved one. And in Scotland, it means the growling sound of a dog, or it refers to people who are being argumentative, troublesome, or cross. Yar. Yar, matey. Okay, joke of the week. Why couldn't the lizard get a girlfriend? Because he had reptile dysfunction. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, last week, the question of the week is, what is the composition of household dust? Let me tell you, I was a little bit blown away by this, but there are 3 sources: indoors, outdoors, and cosmic. Those are the 3 sources that comprise it. Now, the indoor sources are dead skin, and I mean millions. Every day, humans shed millions of dead skin cells. There's also pet dander and microscopic fibers from your clothes, carpets, and upholstery. Okay. Now, the outdoor sources are soil particles, pollen, fungal spores, industrial pollutants, and yes, teeny tiny bits of rubber from car tires. Now, the cosmic source is cosmic dust, stardust. Every year, tens of thousands, tons of cosmic dust settle on the Earth. This is leftover debris from shit like exploding stars and meteorites. Yeah. So, dust doesn't just happen to appear on your furniture. It swirls around you constantly. And yes, you breathe it in. It goes in your nose, it goes in your mouth, it goes in your ears. Now, luckily, your nose has nose hair and mucus that trap some of it. Yay, mucus. And also, your lungs have white blood cells to gobble up some of the dust. Dust. Some cool shit, huh? Okay, new question of the week. Actually, I got two for you. How many bones does a shark have? How many bones does a shark have? Next question. What color is the sunset on Mars? What color is the sunset on Mars? Discuss that next time. Thought of the week. Do you realize that if you're sitting on the toilet at 11:59 p.m. and the clock strikes midnight, it's same shit, different day? Yeah. Okay, so don't forget about the playlist. Good shit out there. Damn good music. If you feel like contacting me, God knows why, but if you feel like it, you can send me a text by click on the little button in the episode, or you can email me directly at bfodpodcast@gmail.com. Also, don't forget that there's another little clicky click in the episode that will allow you to support this show. Yeah, there's no commitment, but if you click on support the show, you can send me a couple of dollars a month, a couple of hundred, whatever you got. Okay, so that's it. Season 2, episode 21. I enjoyed it. I hope you did, and I hope you were entertained and educated and had a laugh or two. And I think that we will do it again next week. So bye for now.